Gary, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. It's always fun to talk. Thanks.
And I guess I'll set the stage for you. It's me and Lars Anderson and also Antonio Langham in studio with us today as well.
Sure. Hi, Antonio. Hi, Lars. How you doing?
Hey, Gary, how you doing?
Great.
As far as this, I guess these two guys know a lot about each other when it comes to Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban, and not only from coaching, also playing against each other. Just how do you initially see this game and the approach that Jimbo Fisher will take with his team and going up against this Alabama defense?
For about 8 years, I've had the same philosophical opinion of how you have to compete in this conference. That I think there was a rush after Johnny Manziel made a bit of an impact in his brief stay at Texas A&M. That big game at 2012 there in Bryant-Denny, and then the next year when they put 600 plus yards up against Alabama in that game, and then some of the success that Ole Miss had. Although if you dive into it a little bit more, it's a little different than when you watch the tape. That there was a way to finesse Alabama, spread them out, and the real secret was that you had to beat them on the perimeters. And I really felt that was a kind of like fool's gold. That if you really look closely, Clemson was extremely talented in the defense and offensive lines. And if you looked a little closely at Texas A&M, those first few teams were populated by offensive linemen and defensive linemen that were going to play in the NFL. And if you really looked at if you had to really have a chance against Alabama, or more importantly, in the SEC, you had to build your team and the offensive defensive lines. And then, of course, go get yourself a quarterback and receivers and all the other stuff besides that. And I think that's where Jimbo's at now. I think Kevin Sumlin took this program a little bit too much to the edges. There was too much emphasis that the way to build a program was around no huddle, hurry up. It's a great tactic. Everybody uses it. But when your program is built around that tactic and that's where you start off your fundamentals, I think Tennessee did it. I think Ole Miss has gone too far, and we saw the results of what happened to them when you can't match up in the offensive defensive line. It puts too much pressure on your team. You may have a hot day, but it's hard to have a hot season playing that type of football. And I think Jimbo's got it headed back in the proper direction. I don't think they're deep enough yet, but I think they're on the right track of what you have to do to put the mix of the tight ends, the H-backs, the play-action passes, the RPOs. Everything has to fit together and be balanced, running the ball off tackle. Everything has to be balanced, I think, to beat Alabama or to compete in the SEC. Kirby's doing that at Georgia, and I think that's the formula to play in this conference, and A&M is starting to turn in that direction.
What does the Texas A&M defense have to do to try to slow down this Alabama offense that has scored 50 or more in the first 3 games?
Yeah, I'm open for observations if you want to help me. I'm going to have to do 3.5 hours of it coming up here on Saturday. I don't think there's any magic. I really don't. I don't think there's coaching magic. I recall, it was kind of a funny line, but it's a little embarrassing. Jay's played high-level football. Antonio obviously has too. I remember doing the SEC championship, Georgia against Alabama. What was it, 215, 214, something like that, when Alabama just kept running to the left side. And Todd Grantham was their defensive coordinator. And they'd come to the sideline, and all the players would be looking at Coach Grantham on the sideline. And I don't know what he said, but I speculate to say, I got nothing for you. They're kicking your ass. There's nothing I can help you with, okay? And that's really when you get into this game. I don't know if you can't win one-on-one battles and hold up front. When Alabama comes out and they can run, off tackle for 8 yards, or they can throw a quick slant accurately, or they can go deep like they are now. In the last few years, they were stretching the ball outside of the hashes and throwing horizontally. But now, they've got trust in a quarterback that they're willing to let him throw the ball down the field. And I'm not taking anything away from the past because it's been really successful. I mean, obviously. Now they're willing to throw it to anybody. When you break the huddle, try to figure out who's getting the ball. Good luck. I mean, I say this tongue in cheek. Tony Romo's a good guy, but Tony Romo could not predict where this ball's going to, because nobody knows. When they break the huddle, it could go to 5 different players, and that's how a perfect offense is built. Now, to get back to what they have to do, they have to win inside first. You saw what LSU did against Auburn. Auburn can do all kind of different things in Gus's offense, but if you can't control the line of scrimmages, you're going to have problems. So if I was looking for A&M to do something, I'd be in that, inside linebacker, defensive tackle room, defensive end room, and saying, guys, you got to collapse that pocket. You got to get into his face. You have to force the easy throw away and make him hold the ball just, 1 second, half a second longer than he wants to. That's always been the formula against any quarterback, whether it's, Tua now or it's Joe Namath or Drew Brees or Tom Brady. If you don't get in his face, you don't have a chance.
And I think Tony Romo, he still could probably predict what's about to happen. He's amazing at that. And, when you talk about these two coaches with Jimbo and Coach Saban with a lot of history, who do you think it benefits the most with the times they've spent together, kind of doing on the board? And actually, we had Jimbo on a few years ago, and he's talked about how it was so much fun with Saban that they'd get on almost like a chess match on the board, talking about defensive schemes and how to attack certain things. Who does that benefit more in this type of matchup between those two?
Well, it's hard to argue, that it benefits the young student because they haven't beat him yet. The records are the records. But I speculated last year that Kirby in the championship game would bring an air of confidence to his team, that he's been there, seen there, and wasn't going to back down. And, except for one play, it could have gone the other direction. I think that's one of the things that A&M has going for them coming into this game. I think there's 3, okay? Number one is, Jimbo's played against these guys. He knows Coach Saban. He's going to walk into that meeting room and say, I can't help you physically there, but I can tell you they're not going to do anything that's going to surprise me. And I know Coach Saban, and he brings credibility to the lectern when he talks to the team. But what he also is bringing, I think, for A&M into this game is their success or close success of how they played against Clemson. I mean, Clemson played 2 spectacular games against Alabama. I don't think anybody would be surprised if Clemson got to the championship game against Alabama again. It would be a close, hard-fought game. It could go either way. And this A&M team stood toe-to-toe with them and took it right down to the last play of the football game. So they bring that. And they also bring a quarterback, that got hot against them. And, everybody in God knows it's hard enough to play against Alabama, with an average quarterback. They feast on those guys. You got to bring a guy who can, be athletic, yes, but he's got to throw first. I'll take a guy that can't move at all over a guy who can scramble and can't throw. Give me a thrower first, because you can't beat this Alabama defense if you can't spread them out and challenge their DBs down the field. I mean, Antonio knows this. I mean, when you're playing cornerback, and I played, with great players in Cleveland, Hanford Dixon and Frank Minifield, they would tip their hat to a well-run route and a back shoulder throw and a good route and say, hey, good for you. Let's see if you can do it again. And that's the challenge for an A&M. I mean, defense is only so good in that secondary. And if you can put it in the right spot, you can go up, make that radius as wide as possible and catch the ball, you can make first down. Trouble is, can you do it over and over and over again?
What were some of your big takeaways from the Auburn LSU game last Saturday?
I started out my number one storyline when we were going through our production meetings of our game, that the story of the game was, can LSU's offensive line keep from being dominated in the game? I didn't even really suspect that they could even hold their own. I was just looking for the fact that, would Auburn's defensive line so totally discombobulate the offense that there would be no chance for any quarterback, Joe Burrow or anybody else, to have an effect in that game. And I thought that was the story of the game. The LSU line not only did they not get dominated, they more than held their own in that game. And I thought that was the story of the game. The second story of the game is, when Gus's offense doesn't have a featured running attack. Now, that can be a lot of different ways because he can mold it a lot of different ways. It can be built around a running passing quarterback like Cam. It could be built around a running predominantly quarterback like Nick Marshall. Or last year it can be built around the workload of a Kerryon Johnson and a excellent passing game. But boy, when you don't have any of those running attacks, it does not look like his system is strong enough to throw the ball on its own. They did not have the sophistication of the pass offense. Their receivers looked out of sorts, and Jarrett didn't have his best game. They were, for the second year in a row, playing LSU. They're up 20-0 one year, and they're up 21-10 at home the next year, and they can't put away LSU. So no domination from that front four, and the fact that the run game, that's everything feeds off the run game for the Auburn offense. And they got to figure out something to help Jarrett Stidham.
Gary Danielson joining us, CBS Sports. Again, he'll make the call. Alabama A&M coming up this Saturday at 2:30. 3 weeks in, what's been your biggest surprise as far as in the SEC as teams or players?
I don't think there's any doubt. It's been LSU. I didn't see this coming. With their schedule, and I thought even you talked to Coach O privately. Last year I look at 4 contributing players playing for Alabama that LSU could not lock the gate and keep them home. So I really felt that their talent had slipped a little bit. I thought Coach O believed that their talent had slipped a little bit, but it looks like he's got them playing, for LSU. They seem really motivated there. He's getting the best out of them. They've added a great transfer, tough quarterback, and I think that's the number one surprise of the league. And then I guess for me, the number 2 surprise, and I'm walking in right into the middle of this storm, is the unfolding story that, at least publicly, and I'm giving credit to Jalen Hurts and Nick Saban that they have this privately solved, is what is the final solution to this quarterback situation? Is this going to be a talking point all year? Has Jalen decided that he's more than willing to be all in on this 218 team to be the backup quarterback? Because if he isn't, and I speculated early that if he wasn't, they were going to have to get a backup quarterback ready. And so obviously, Tua is going to be the guy, and the backup, barring injury, is going to be Jalen. And it seems to be solved, but publicly the questions still linger. And I think, that's one of the main storylines. I mean, I cannot do an interview without the Ohio State story being brought up or what's going to happen with the Alabama quarterback situation anywhere in the country.
Final question for you. What has life been like without Verne Lundquist this season?
Well, this is our second year. Brad and I worked 7 years together at ESPN doing games all over the country. So it's been pretty seamless. I know the SEC fans miss him, and we all miss Verne. He was one of a kind. He helped build this product. When I came in 2006, this conference had a huge chip on their shoulder that they were not getting the recognition nationally that they deserved, and they were right. And Verne helped raise that footprint, and he will always be remembered as one of the icons in this conference, and deservedly so. We miss his laughs, we miss his dinners, and the fans I know miss him, but we really were lucky to land Brad Nessler. He had great experience in this league, and he's a pro's pro, so we're lucky to have him.
You guys do a great job, Gary. As always, thanks so much for your time.
All right. Good. Looking forward to doing